Hello, everybody. Hello, Brew Crew. I'm Chris King from the Cream City Curveball alongside.
Jeff Orlowski.
Yes, sir, Jeff. That's two straight winning post games for you on
Yeah.
97.3 The Game. So the Brewers trying to get back on track here. They're 2 games below 500, 5 games out of first place in the NL Central. But a lot of teams fighting for that first place spot, trying to catch the Chicago Cubs, the Reds, and the Cardinals in third and second. So the Brewers got some ground to cover, but a couple wins in a row now, and taking care of that Twins team that was 12 or 13 in a row. So hopefully they're getting back on the right track. But last night it was William Contreras coming up big. We had I believe it was a stolen base and then a base hit. So good production, good small ball action from the Brewers, and it paid off. Nick Mears gives up the 3-run home run to Cedric Mullins that ties the game, but it doesn't matter. The Brewers win it 5-4 against a struggling O's team. And this is the thing. You got the Orioles now who are 15 and 31, and then next you'll play the Pittsburgh Pirates who have 15 wins as well. So is there the light at the end of the tunnel for this Brewers team right now, Jeff?
Well, let's hope so, man, because they need it. This 7 game stretch here against a horrible Baltimore team that's already fired their manager. You need to win at minimum 2 out of 3. A sweep would be even better. And then you go to Pittsburgh and you take on the Pirates, already fired their manager, and they suck as well. So this 7 game stretch is hugely important. And the thing is that I think that most of us can see that the only way into the playoffs this year is to win the division. If you don't win the Central with all the talent in the National League, there's no chance the wild card's coming out of the Central. And so it's division or bust. Being 5 games back already, there's a lot of ground to make up. And besides just 5 games back, like you said, we're sitting in fourth place. We got to jump 3 teams. So it's time to start cooking.
So when we talk about the ground that the Brewers have to cover, and obviously they've had some series where they're just not producing offensively. What have you seen from this Brewers team that's kind of allowed them to struggle in certain moments and be so inconsistent throughout this season so far?
Well, it's just the lack of hitting. And, Murphy's doing all that he can do. He's been shuffling the lineup like crazy. You saw Jackson Churio move down to sixth for a game. That didn't help because I think he struck out 3 times that day and had an offer as well. So, he's doing what he can. The Brewers lead the league in stolen bases. So they're trying the small ball thing. And, a lot of people will complain because Joey Ortiz sucks. Caleb Durbin, can't hit either. Vinny Capra can't hit. The third base position continues to be a problem that the Brewers are unable to solve. But, this problem has been going on for decades here. So that's nothing new. But so a lot of blame is getting placed on Ortiz and Durbin and stuff. But for me, it comes down to Yelich and Churio. Hoskins is finally starting to hit, and that's great to see. You had William Contreras go 4 for 4 last night with a walk, had the game-winning RBI as well. So it looks like his finger is feeling better. You hope that he's able, because he's got that broken finger on his receiving hand, his glove hand when he's catching. So that's got to hurt like hell. But then besides that, it's hard to grip the bat and to get good power on it. So it was nice to see him making really good contact last night. Hopefully that continues. But, the pitchers have definitely made an adjustment to Jackson Churio, who we saw at the second half of last season just got on a roll, man. And he was carrying that team and just riding high, hitting, just mashing the ball. And we've yet to see that now. Everything is low and outside. And he's got a little bit of Willie Adamas in him because he can't hold up on those bad pitches. He needs to get his plate discipline back in order, make these guys throw strikes to him. And if you're able to be more selective, then he's going to start to be able to drive the ball. But if you're a pitcher and obviously Jackson Churio is swinging at anything, he doesn't take any walks. So what tells you how bad he's struggling, I'm sitting there watching the game last night, and I want to say it was his second at bat. He gets ahead 1-0, and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can't believe he didn't swing at the first pitch. And then he swings and misses at the second pitch.
Right.
But then the third one he takes, and now he's up 2-1. I was like, oh my God, this is great. It was like better than Christmas. And that's a sad sign when you're celebrating Churio being ahead in the count instead of behind, because he's got a serious case of the 0-2s where he's always down 0-2 and trying to battle back, being in the hole. So Yelich, Churio, they need to get going. The bottom half of the order, they're easy to pick on. But Yelly and Churio are who you're banking on to sit there and make a difference. And like I said, and it's nice to see Contreras. Hopefully he keeps that up, but the other guys got to step up too.
Absolutely. And I think what we were talking about before we started this video is that I think the Brewers lack a little bit of pop, and those guys are at the center of that. Like, those guys are guys who, Yelly leads the team in RBIs, Yelly leads the team in home runs, but it doesn't do much if throughout the middle of the season you're batting below 200, right? And Churio's struggling, and you're going 0 for 5, 0 for 4. You really miss that pop from those guys, and we know that they're capable of doing that. So that's why it's not necessarily the sky is falling with this Brewers team, and I think they'll be able to pick it up. And with that comes the potential return of Jose Quintana. And so if you are able to get the pop back into the lineup, and he's coming back, I think they said, he might be eligible by the 26th of May or a little later than that. So, like, if you can get him back, who has been basically your ace this year, great ground ball pitcher, just quality start after quality start after quality start, I think that'll bode well for the Brewers.
Yeah, it will. Quintana's been amazing, but like we said at the jump, the pitching hasn't been the problem, which is shocking because it was the pitching staff, especially the starting rotation, that was absolutely decimated by injury early on in this season. And you had the young guys, Logan Henderson. They make the trade for Quinn Priester, who's pitched well. Father Quinn has been a nice addition to this ball club, and they got years and years of control on him. So they're being carried by the young guys here. So I'm not worried about the pitching staff. Once Quintana comes back, once Aaron Savale comes back, and fingers crossed, hopefully Woody is back sooner rather than later. It's going to be an embarrassment of riches and a real crowded starting rotation there. And, it gives the Brewers tough decisions on who stays and who goes, which is what you want. Obviously, you want more guys than you got spots for, because that means that you've got depth and that you have a good team. So it just all comes down to the bats. There's so many guys that are like 0 for 20 now. You had Durbin. He got a hit last night, drove in an RBI, which, was the first time since Jesus was a baby that he put bat to ball. And, that broke up like an 0 for 24 for him. And then you got Churio's 0 for 20 something. And Yelly is like 1 for his last 24 or something like that. Just these numbers are crazy. And I keep saying, and I keep waiting, and I do think that they're going to break out of this, but eventually you have to prove it. And you got to live up to the numbers on the back of the baseball card that we're used to seeing. And right now they haven't been able to do that.
So, Jeff, my last question here is, what do the Brewers have to do to make sure that they're not losing 2 out of 3 to the Baltimore Orioles? Even though, yes, they've got the talent to do it. The Orioles got great young talent. They're not playing well this year, so I don't want to expect anything other than a 2-1 victory in the series or a sweep. I don't want that to happen as well with the Pirates, who are struggling. And if they got Skeens on the mound and they take one and then they find another one, like, those are the kind of things that can't happen against bad teams. So what do they have to do to make sure that doesn't take place?
You got to get out to an early lead. You got to set the tone early. You've got to jump out, get these guys behind. Like you said, there is talent in Baltimore. There's talent in Pittsburgh. Well, a little bit less in Pittsburgh, but there's talent in Baltimore, but these teams are struggling. So if you're able to jump out, put a couple zeros in the first couple innings on them and take a lead, then all of a sudden they get into their head and they start thinking, oh man, here we go again. We're down again, and put them in comeback mode, because then they start pressing at the plate. They're more likely to swing at, outside cheese and all that kind of stuff instead of looking for good pitches to drive. And hopefully that's enough to get you through. Part of the problem with the Crew is that, there's been a couple games when they actually do score a bunch of runs. They'll score them, fairly early, and then they won't score again. you've got to, you got to hit those tack on runs. You need those insurance runs. You got to keep adding to your number in the middle innings and in the late innings to sit there and seal the deal. So far, they haven't been able to do it. Hopefully, with this 7-game stretch against crappy opponents, they can get rolling, get their confidence back, and get on a roll. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely. It's a 6:40 start time tonight against the Baltimore Orioles. Keegan Aiken on the bump for the O's and Logan Henderson for the Brewers. So they can win the series tonight, and they've got to keep
Keegan
it going.
Aiken. What a god-awful name that is.
Absolutely.
I feel bad for that guy.
Yeah, well, I feel bad for anybody on the O's pitching staff or on the O's team. What a disappointment that's been. All right, for Chris King and
Jeff Orlowski.
Yep, this is the Cream City Curveball. You can catch Pipe, Jeff Orlowski, on the post-game show on 97.3 The Game right after this second go at it for the Brewers against the Baltimore Orioles. Have a good one, Brew Crew, and we'll see you next time.